So, gentlemen, do you think we should start, or do you think we should wait a little longer? Or what are your thoughts?
Give it another minute or two.
Okay. Oops. I forgot that whatever I clicked was going to actually happen on the screen. Well, for those of you who are here, obviously our topic today is going to be unlocking efficiency with Microsoft Copilot's capabilities. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that means and all the different ways that Copilot can make your work faster, more efficient, and just give you more time to focus on the things that you do want to spend the majority of your time doing, and not the tedious tasks that can become very repetitive and can end up actually slowing you down over time. So I think myself, Bill, and Roman have all been playing around with Copilot, getting used to it for the last few weeks now. And I think we've all been discovering different ways that it helps us personally and helps us overall as a business at Klik Solutions, which is why we're proud to talk about Copilot and share our feedback, what we've learned and what we've seen from it. And that way, we hope that you can make a more educated decision on if Copilot is the right AI tool for your business, and if these are features that you think you or your staff might benefit from having. So maybe we could also do some introductions to who we are before we just get the show rolling. So I'll start and then I'll pass it off to you two. My name is Brooke Loughman. I am the assistant to the CEO here at Klik Solutions. I also write the Tech Barbie blog, which you can find on our website. I talk about how technology relates to topics in fashion and beauty and more, just putting a more feminine and modern twist on the conversation in today's world about technology. So that is me. Bill, Roman, who wants to introduce?
Well, I'm Bill Pritchard, Director of Analytics, and we've been using Copilot here internally for a while. And in talking to various people, it's been an interesting reaction, some of which Brooke will share. But we're excited to have you here, and we also have Roman, our CTO.
Howdy, Roman, the CTO. Obviously, first hearing about Copilot initially from Bill and his team, who were, I don't want to say our guinea pigs, but really our champions here at Klik. I'm sure Brooke's going to talk a little bit about that, but I think after the first 2 weeks and seeing some of the things that Bill and his team first, just little bits and pieces, I got myself a license as well. And so I've been using it daily ever since. And so really, I think it's phenomenal with how it's really changing a lot of different departments, a lot of different divisions. I think my use of it is rather boring compared to everyone else. I get to use it for more creative things, or in the case of Bill and his team that are, building chatbots and various other things. But definitely can talk about some of the basic uses on my end. But yeah, happy to be here and answer any questions along the way as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We're proud partners of Microsoft Copilot, and that is obviously a big reason driving us to do this today. But at the same time, this is all real experiences. This is we're talking from experience about what it really feels like to use Copilot and how it has shifted things in our daily work lives. Were you going to add something to that, Bill, or?
No, I was going to say, if you want to go on to the next slide, I'll talk through the next.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Okay. Good idea.
All right. So what is Copilot? And there's the thing in the center is one of my favorite things about it. But the thing to keep in mind is that Copilot is Microsoft's kind of entrance into the AI. You know, everybody has an AI for everything, right? And so how do you pick an AI, and what will it do for you? And is it just bells and whistles? And can it really help me save productivity? Microsoft is one that I like in particular because we use Microsoft 365 products. So we use Microsoft Teams, we use the email and all the associated products. And Copilot has the ability to securely go through all of the different pieces of Microsoft's 365 products and more, and give you the ability to get access to information and insights that you're only allowed to have permissions to. So it's not like you have to buy another tool and then somehow figure out how to give permissions to specific files or specific calendars or so on and so on. And so one of the reasons that we're kind of doing this webinar is to show you some of the features of it. It's going to be basically a sample. If this was a menu, this would be the appetizer. We'd love to talk to anybody if you have any questions, or you'd like to get a little more in-depth demo of what it can do, or you're just wondering how it can help you, just let us know. All right, the next one talks about the adoption of Copilot. If you go to the next slide.
Oh, yes. Apologies.
Sorry, I was having a little. I was having a little technical difficulties here. All right, so go ahead, Brooke. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it. I will take it from here. So my story is one of an AI skeptic turned AI enthusiast. When they first came to me and let me know that Copilot was going to be something we were going to be bringing into the office, partnering with Microsoft to use. And I was just very hesitant about AI and the losing a lot of that human touch. And I guess a big fear of mine is kind of what you see in this is this expectation that we are just going to be pushed out and replaced by our robot counterparts, and that we wouldn't have jobs anymore, and that slowly but surely this tool was just going to wipe away the need for humans. Now, I've come to the realization that even if that were the case, we are very, very far from that being the case. So we actually live in a reality where this can be a really great tool that can help us instead of replacing us, but be this virtual assistant that, like I said earlier, can take on a lot of those tasks that you could spend 30 minutes trying to think of how to write a really professional email asking for a certain thing, or you're trying to make a PowerPoint, but you're struggling to come up with what to put on your slides. All of that can be immediately sped up by having a tool like Copilot at your disposal. So first things first, a big use of Copilot for me has been with LinkedIn, because don't tell anybody, but if you follow our CEO Arthur's LinkedIn, I am his ghostwriter. So the secret's out. I do write those posts. So for a long time, obviously I would always be trying to think of different ideas and do things that are creative. And maybe if you guys have, been active on LinkedIn or had to write posts, it feels like sometimes you can put so much into a post and it'll get like no impressions. And then it'll be something that you barely thought would be anything, and then it gets like 600 impressions. So a lot of times I was like, I don't know what I'm doing or if I'm good at this, or, I would struggle to come up with what are good topics in technology to write about that his, friends on LinkedIn would care about. And then I started using LinkedIn as a tool to not write them for me, but to help me. So I'm going to play the video of a little demo. Apologies if it's hard to see, but hopefully, it's not really about what it actually says, but you can see here I wrote to write a LinkedIn post about a certain topic. You can choose what format you want it in, whether it's like bullet points or, a paragraph. I chose LinkedIn post. And then you can also choose like the length, short, medium, long. You can also choose the tone if you want to be enthusiastic or professional. And so what you'll see on the screen here is I'm making slight changes because a lot of times Copilot is great. It's great for generating ideas for LinkedIn posts because I'll ask it that too. I'll be like, ideas for LinkedIn posts for a technology company and just see what ideas it comes up with. But when it's actually writing the post, every single time it wants to start with in today's digital age or some variation of that. And I'm like, okay, Copilot, not every single post can start with in today's digital age or today's digital landscape. It loves that one too. So normally I'll go in and I'll put some personalization. I'll change a few things, maybe delete a sentence. So you're not just giving your work all the way over to Copilot and just checking out. It's just a way to be like, okay, here I have a better foundation to start with, and then I can edit it to make it say what I really want it to say. The next way that I personally enjoy using it, hold on, let me get out of this video. There we go. The next way I enjoy it is also helpful for presentations, just like this one. You can instantly generate flawless presentations in seconds, and we'll show you how that is done also. So I'm writing in there to create bullet points on a PowerPoint presentation on the power of Copilot. I choose bullet points, I choose short, you can make it any length, any tone you want. Like I said before, boom, it's writing it all out for me, super quick. All I got to do is copy and paste it. And then of course you're going to go back, take the control again, and you get to format it whatever way you want. And same thing as before, make whatever edits that you want to apply to make it sound more like you and more like your vision. But again, it's so much faster and it's just so much easier to have some of that brainstorming time be cut down and just start with ideas and then pick the best ones instead of racking your brain being like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to write, and having, writer's block in a sense. So another way that I think I mentioned briefly before that Copilot really saves the day is writing emails. So like if you're someone like me who is new to the business world or the corporate world, sometimes I'm like, okay, this is what I want to say, but how do I say this in a professional way? How do I say this in any kind of different mode or mood or tone that I'm trying to express in that conversation? Like if someone keeps sending you emails and you're like, I really want you off my email, I really want to be off your email list, you want to just be like, stop emailing me, like go away. But Copilot will make it sound much nicer than that. So here you can see I'm asking it to please politely write me an email that I could send to someone. I think that was the topic that I actually chose, was to be taken if it's like not what you didn't come off the way you meant it to or anything like that. We get it. Copilot gets that sometimes we don't know how to find the right words, and it'll find it for us. And I think that that's great. Same thing, you can always go in and edit, you can add more detail, and you can also tell Copilot, you can make changes, say, make this longer or talk more about this. And it really is like a true virtual assistant that will listen to your suggestions or your recommendations, your preferences, etc., and it'll apply the changes for you. So it's you and the technology really working together. And I think that is the biggest thing that brought me from being such a skeptic to using AI in my work to actually enjoying using it, because I realized that this was actually just one of the many tools at our disposal. Like the fact that we have the internet, we have a million things available to us at all times. Obviously, we're going to use it. So if we have a tool like this that can accelerate workflow and take away the time spent on more like monotonous tasks, then we have much more time to do bigger and better things. I can write the Tech Barbie blog because my work is done, So, oh, no, don't do that. All right. I'm actually going to be passing it off to Bill. And he's going to tell you from his perspective about some of the benefits for using Copilot. So, Bill, take it away.
Very good. Well, we originally actually just wanted Brooke just to keep going, to be honest with you, because it's a great story. Brooke, how much would you say it would be reasonable to say that you could potentially save 20% of time or be 20% more efficient from what you've used so far in Copilot?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would definitely say that I think that I've gotten like a lot of my time back, that and I also feel confident, putting my posts out, because the Copilot written LinkedIn posts that are, edited by me, they do great. Like I remember our CEO Arthur actually came to me and he's like, "Hey, Brooke, like you're killing it with the LinkedIn posts." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Like little did you know, I have a little robot friend on the side helping me. But yeah, it makes things more efficient, it makes things faster. And if you use it right, it doesn't sacrifice quality. You know what I mean? Like you don't just take whatever the first thing it says is. You got to read it, you got to put a little work into it. But yeah, I'd say it's definitely made me, I don't know exactly how much what percent more efficient, but definitely
Yeah, you haven't hit the stopwatch.
Yeah.
Very good. So that's a great testimony, because I was the one who originally went to Brooke and asked her if she would, start using the tool and perhaps add it to her podcast. And she initially had a little bit of resistance, and now her testimony speaks volumes to how it can help. All right. So for the next couple of slides, I'm just going to run through real quick. They're basically just to show you the adoption rate of it, right? So there's over 1 million paid Copilot users right now, 37,000 organizations. Office 365 applications, as I mentioned before, is driving a lot of the technology. It's just really changing all the time. So it's, what you see today is there's going to be even more tomorrow, right? So here's, talking about the efficiency. I can tell you with what I use it for in the meetings has saved me at least that, and give me the ability to not be in meetings and be able to review what's going on in meetings. So that's saved me at least that much time, right? And it also saves on follow-up meetings. And I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. So as Brooke said, it's an everyday companion. It works across devices. It's not just even what we're showing you today. We're adding Copilot to all of our websites, and we're training them so that you can ask questions about analytics or ask questions about cybersecurity. And it gets, it learns from our website, and it also learns from the documents we upload, and it also learns from the questions people ask, because we capture the questions and then we have the AI write more articles based on the questions. So it's really powerful. That could be used also in say HR, for example. You could have all your HR documents, which are secure, and you don't, the only people that can get access to it are ones that have permission. But you can have a chat bot that basically, what's our PTO policy, or what's this or what's that. And it's been really effective in saving a lot of phone calls and a lot of miscommunication. So you can get access to all of that as well. And basically accessibility, innovation. They're continuing to grow and add more features. Now, Roman, you've used it as well. What are some kind of examples before I kind of go into the demo of the meeting part?
My examples vary. I would say, first of all, you hit the nail with the meetings. You could probably do an entire webinar just within the features and the usability of meetings and how within an organization, how it takes on a life of its own, where again, maybe not everybody has a Copilot license and you've taken on a sort of an ongoing process now of certain groups automatically sharing Copilot notes. In my cases, being a multitasker and having lots of distractions around, I can tell you that during the meetings where it's really helped, and I hope no one ever finds out when this happens, I will literally type in, what did I just miss? What did Bill just say? Can you please explain to me what Brooke was trying to get me to provide? And it's really, really, really helpful. But beyond that, I use the Copilot chat, the AI companion, as you guys are calling it, in certain cases while I'm refining ideas, while I'm trying to, I know for a fact, when I've had to build out some job descriptions, and I'm trying to, really eloquently correlate specific needs of a given department, I would use that. This is probably the more basic stuff. I know, Bill, you're going to talk maybe a little bit more on, some of the more advanced functionality. One of the things, I know, Brooke, you pointed out how you use it for your PowerPoints. One of the things, and again, there's a reason why I'm not part of the presentation within the PowerPoint side of this. I've just been a bit all over the place, but one of the things that I've loved to do is you can reference a file within your prompt, as long as that file is within, OneDrive or within the SharePoint environment as a whole. And so as we're refining, for example, like let's say timesheet standards for a given team, you can reference this file. And, at one point when I was preparing to do presentation stuff for this, I was going to use that where it'll actually build you out a whole slide deck. Similarly, I've taken a slide deck of a past presentation and where we could not find the original PDF from something we did 5 years ago. And I'm like, hey, use this old PowerPoint presentation, but I really want to deliver this now in, written PDF format, something along those lines. So that's just like some of the most basic things, but to your point, Bill, it saves countless hours along the way. And just that's really been part of it.
Yeah, like when you're like going off of what you said, like looking for something, a thing of the past. I used to just like scroll, be like, oh my gosh, what month was this? No. Now you can literally just type on the side and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah contract. Boom, 2 seconds. And you're like, oh,
absolutely.
There it is. I also wanted to mention something else about it because I know I'm sure we're going to go on to talk about how this obviously also helps communication within is that on the next slide, Bill? Should I wait? Are you going to talk about how like we use it to work together? Okay. Because I didn't want to like jump the gun and then the next slide, you're like, oh, what she said. But yeah, so there was a point in time where my friend and colleague Julia and I, we thought that with Copilot, because there was so much of like an ability to share things with each other and communicate, that everyone in our organization could like read all of our messages, which definitely seemed a little bit scary. And like obviously, like you just should not say anything bad on your team's work chat. I don't approve of just like maybe like just still imagine that if your boss saw this, like how would you feel? But regardless, you don't want someone that could literally just access all of your messages at all time. And I wanted to just say that while Copilot is very accessible and we use it a lot to communicate, you can see all of your messages going back, like we were talking about, for a very long time. But other people, like if Roman or Bill wanted to just like dive into my messages and like see who I'm talking to, that doesn't happen. So
No.
that's all on that. But still, don't say bad things on your company's team's suite.
that's
No, it's you're
My word of advice.
well, I would say that folks are so prior to it, you would have, as part of our project management process, you would have a process where we would record certain calls as a formality. But now, once folks have their Copilot licenses, you see that transcription getting turned on real quick, which is usually an indicator that somebody's turning on Copilot along the way. And yeah, I don't know about you, Brooke or Bill, I've actually found myself, oh goodness gracious, I go into the meeting once that Copilot portion turns on. I actually start articulating a lot better because I know that the bot's going to capture it, and I'm like, great, we're going to get some good workflow information and maybe a little bit more pontificating than we should. But to your point, Brooke, folks get real professional real quick along the way.
Yeah, when you find out that you're being recorded and every word you're saying is being transcribed, I think most people are like, okay, let me watch what I do and say because it will
Morning
be.
calls are very quick, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, much more cut and dry.
Yeah.
Get to work.
Well,
All
it
business.
it definitely smacks of Big Brother, but at the same time, it also allows you to be able to really, at your fingertips, have access to the data and the information that you need in a format that will save you a lot of time. So that kind of makes me think of the actual AI culture in a company itself, right? So I'm a big proponent of the data culture, right? If you're going to be a data company, you need a healthy data culture, and I think AI is the same thing. Have you run into any cases where somebody's been? We already know Brooke was resistant, but what do you two think about kind of how the data culture starts, and any ideas on how to kind of promote it, or not the data culture, but the AI culture?
Well,
I was about to say, I have no idea how to answer that question if it's about the data culture. But yeah, Roman, you want to go first? You look like
yeah,
you had a thought.
it's one of those things, Bill, that I know you and I nerd out on this topic on, how do you do it and how do you get it to a point where you want people to see the benefit, to buy in? With obviously, Brooke, you talked about sort of your concerns and your fears about it. So
Right.
there's the buy-in. So you obviously see your perspective of the AI culture, the benefits of it, which is obviously what we're talking about here. From my standpoint, Bill, people believe it when they see it, right? And the again, we talked for a while about the Teams meetings and everything. That's instant, right? Once somebody saw pages of notes being readily available immediately after a meeting, and
Yeah.
furthermore, being able to also ask specific questions, ask for in my case, I'm like, hey, help me send an email based on this meeting.
Right. Exactly.
That's where you get the buy-in. Now, obviously, we're using this in other areas where the buy-in is different, and there's a bit of trust there. I think for every organization, there has to be sort of an intentional process that you go through where you sort of dip your toe, as I've referred to
Mm.
it here, and then you build that sort of trust in the AI, if that makes sense. But then you learn how the guardrails work. But I've
Yeah.
seen nothing but good things so far from people. I know that early on, Bill, a lot of the engineering team members had referenced a bunch of different sort of meme examples of how, oh, well, we went to ChatGPT and this, that, and the other happened. And, we were trying to use it for PowerShell scripts, and those PowerShell scripts were referencing other scripts that didn't exist or something along those lines, or different libraries. And so again, with this specific topic of Copilot and its uses, I think it's phenomenal. For the Microsoft Office package, the fact that you're able to, we were talking about emails. In my case, I'm embarrassed to talk about how many emails I have in my mailbox just because of the amount of automated stuff there. Oftentimes it is looking for, like a needle in a haystack. And just being able to use Copilot in certain cases, that chat element where I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a specific email on a specific topic. It was a vendor contract in particular. And I didn't remember the name of the vendor, but I remembered the types of services that they provided for us. And I remembered the time frame roughly, but it was like a range. And it's just quick. This is what stuff you and I have talked about, Bill, of just natural language processing, where I did a quick little dictation into my app, and 2 seconds later, it's boom, here's your, X, Y, and Z agreement. So,
yeah, 100%. And the other thing is, it's not just the Microsoft tools. They also have the ability to connect to databases. And so one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is I think the future of analytics is to ask the questions and then have it give you the answers and then the visualization. So you can also connect Copilot up to a database and have it learn the data from that database, and then you'll be able to ask it questions. Say, if you're a medical firm, how many outstanding bills or whatever it is, how many invoices, or for a company, how many outstanding invoices, or whatever you want to ask, and then it gives you that information right at the fingertips, right? So not only within the Office apps, but you'll also be able to apply it to other databases and learn and be able to ask questions on that as well. Now, it's not 100% intuitive. Brooke, I don't think you had any official training, and a lot of the people, of course, being a tech company, want to just
Official training in Copilot, you mean?
Yeah, right. You just went in and just figured it out, right?
I mean, you and I had a call where you gave me like at least the basics. You're like, this is the button. This is how you do this. You're able to do this. But other than that, so like first I got oriented with just how to find everything and what tools were available to me. And then, yeah, from there, I kind of just had to figure out on my own in what ways I wanted to use it. Like, I don't think you necessarily told me like, oh, you can use this to write LinkedIn posts, but you were like, here's where it is in the browser. And then I naturally, through working with it and using it, was like, wait a minute, this could be a great tool to help me come up with my LinkedIn posts faster and, use those buzzwords and things that maybe my 22-year-old girl brain would not naturally think of. Because that's another thing when you're writing LinkedIn posts for somebody else, is like, this can't sound like me. Like, I don't want our CEO to sound like a 22-year-old girl. It's like, and that's like his persona on LinkedIn. So I didn't want that. So I think that getting to also, pick the tone and, say I want a professional LinkedIn post, or I want an enthusiastic LinkedIn post, and using that, I think that, I think it's a lot of trial and error, and you have to figure out how it best works for you.
Yeah. And for each organization, we just kind of went, left caution to the wind and started using it. But I would definitely recommend, kind of identifying the areas that it can help and identify kind of how it can be used. I was working with a gentleman at a manufacturing, and I spent a little bit of time like I did with you, Brooke, and next thing you know, he's calling me back and he goes, "Oh my gosh, everybody needs to have this," because he was using it to find stuff. How long, how much time have you spent in Outlook looking for a particular email, even with the search features, right? Or a particular file. And so he's going to, empower the rest of his team to continue on with the tool. But I think one of the things to also keep in mind is kind of, one of the things that happens with companies is if they buy the latest bright and shiny thing, they might only use like 25% of it. All right. And so we're a big proponent of education and really what can you do with it? And this seminar is kind of, like I said, an appetizer. What can you do with it? How can we do it? And what's, it touches processes within the company. It may even touch, compliance depending on, what's going on. So you have to kind of have a holistic view to kind of not only build the culture, but to build out the best use of the tool in order to maximize efficiency. But if you had 50 people and each of them saved 20 minutes a day, it adds up. It adds up really quick. So I think we've kind of gone through most of these right here. The industry adoption, I think I'm back to where I was here. What I want to do now is stop sharing and see if I can get this next part to work for me. Of course, I was the one with the technical problems today. So.
No, Bill. So once you share the screen, I'll add it to the stage so our lovely viewers will.
So we're going to share this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. And again, here we go.
Thank you. I do apologize. I hope the conversation's been something to kind of prompt you in thinking about, adopting the technology or how to kind of dip your toes into it.
We have a few questions in the comment section too. So I told them we could use those during the Q&A. Yeah. And then of course, if anyone has additional questions, we'll bring that up too.
Yeah. So we're going to have a Q&A, but it's a bit hard to show because we don't want to show all of our private data. Right. And so this is real world application. So you've heard us talk about a lot of things. If there's something you'd actually like to see a demo, just follow back with us and we can give you a demo. We just didn't want to record like our whole business on the screen, right? So I am going to kind of break the rule here. And so this right here was a call that I had earlier. And I'm not gonna play the video, but so this is a call that I had with the marketing team and the sales team, and we were discussing some marketing strategies using some of the tools that we use. And what it did was it recorded not only the video, but it also recorded the audio and provided transcripts. And it then goes and gives you the meeting notes and breaks it down into sections. So this is AI notes. You can add your own notes here, which I didn't do. You can add mentions, which I didn't do. And then you have access to the full transcript right there. So if you go to the AI notes, if I wanted to review a meeting and go back, first of all, I just copy the whole AI notes because it has basically all the meeting notes along with all the follow-up items. Now, we didn't type those in. It figured it out from what we were talking about, right? And so what I would do is copy all of this and then maybe send it in a Teams message to somebody else, like I did Roman, on a different call. It's like, here's the call. Now, he doesn't have to be involved in the call, but he wants to know what's going on. So that's a very handy thing that will save a lot of time just from not taking notes. The other thing that's really cool is that you can go, I'm sorry, we all have kind of our mouths open because it's a screen capture, but that's funny. You can go into the various different parts and click on it, and it'll take you to the part of the call that this part is talking about, which is definitely cool. And also, you can then go to the parts that I talked, for example, and I can go back in and look at the various parts of the conversation if I wanted to go back and well, that's Greg, but if I wanted to go back and review my parts, or if I remember Greg said something, and you can also go back in and then ask it questions. and it'll give you the answer to the questions as well. So it's really this tool alone. Is it just me, or Roman? Have you found this to be? I know you've already kind of mentioned it, but
No, very much so. Very much so. This is really, it's funny. I said we could do a whole webinar about the Teams functionality in terms of the meetings. This is a huge part of it. Again, sometimes for me, when I'm just throwing out other ideas, I'll use the chat, and there's aggregation of different things, just to figure out my agenda. If there's Planner, for example, if you're using that as well, that's a huge part of it. So yeah, Bill, I definitely use a big part of that, but
yeah. So this to me, this is the thing to me that's worth the price of admission. It does so much more, but for me, this is huge, because then I don't have, like I keep saying, I don't have to be involved in all the meetings. I can monitor what's going on in the meetings. In this case, I was, but I can also take the follow-up task, and or somebody can send me the list of items on the follow-up task, and right. You can also go back in and ask it to regenerate the action items as well. And I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second and see if I can reshare in another screen. So that was that one. And then
I'm going to offer something really quick if there's time. I don't know what our time is, but one of my favorite features in terms of slide deck building, I talked about it earlier. If you guys want to give me a second.
Yeah.
Here, let me show you something real quick. Give me one moment.
Roman, I can't get over your background. It's just like your head. It's like you're just like in the middle of this like rainforest, just like poking out, like to do a webinar. Like, hey.
It will not actually let me do it. Oh no. I don't think it will. I would have to exit and re-enter just because I was not scheduled to share my screen. So Bill, I'll let you do it on your end, but we'll save it for the next series where it will.
Well, just give us what were you going to talk about?
I was actually going to open up PowerPoint and just show the Copilot prompt where you can select the file and say, build me a slide deck from this file.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I use the same thing. Like if I want to do a presentation, say on data culture, I can just type in, maybe prompt it a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, and then just say, give me a presentation on data culture. Next thing you know, it builds the full deck, and I just edit it or change it. Or I can also take perhaps some research that I've done and also have it go in and do the same thing.
So I know that these guys can talk about Copilot till the cows come home, but in the interest of time, maybe we should move to some questions.
Sure.
All right.
Well, actually, real quick before that, can I just show one more thing? I've got my.
I suppose. Yes.
This will take only a second. I'm sorry. If you want to put my deck up.
Oh yes. Sorry about that.
Okay. So here's a few things. I want to know. So if I have a particular meeting that goes on all the time, and I say, okay, when's my next meeting for this? It tells me when it is, and it actually takes me, if I click on it, to the meeting, right? This is, again, the meetings right here. If I click on this, it'll take me to the same screen that I showed you earlier that shows you the notes and all the tasks in the open items. So that's very easy to get to. And then I have on the last one, basically what emails have come in the last hour. But you also have I think we have something that we'll send out to you afterwards. You have all kinds of prompts. What's new. You can track your tasks. You can look at meeting notes, get calendar information, prep for a meeting. So there's just a number of different prompts that this can use. So that's it. Sorry, I had to squeeze that in real quick.
All good, all good. So there's a cool feature we can do where you can actually add the questions onto the screen. So first, from Brian Scott, does functionality exist for it to learn from the edits you have made to produce better responses in the future? I'd say simple answer is yes, but do either of you guys have a more, I don't know, detailed response?
Well, I'll let you answer, Roman. I'm sorry if you were going to jump in. So Copilot itself definitely can learn because it can go into your emails and basically give you a summary and give you a response based on those emails. It definitely can be trained for things like the Copilot, like I said, in HR, or the Copilot for a website, or the Copilot that connects to a database. And so I'm not exactly sure if it, be honest with you, if it will learn from your edits and start acting like you. I'm not sure if that was the question.
Well,
Yeah. I
yeah,
haven't gotten it to stop saying in today's digital landscape. So
or how
it hasn't.
well. The funny thing is, that's a really good question because there's some very, you know, sort of, I would say, universal things that a lot of people probably would want when it comes to that. For me, I wanted to spell click correctly. And by correctly, I mean KLIK. But it's amazing because sometimes during a meeting, it'll spell it right, but then it'll say click analytics correctly, but then Klik Solutions will be spelled CLICK. So
Interesting.
really, yeah, I would say, Brian, like I know with ChatGPT, they just came out with their next feature that, or newer feature that had memories. And memories allow you to effectively create sort of centralized facts and things that can be referenced across all the other chats.
Yeah.
I think here, Bill, it would probably be more specific to Studio, Copilot Studio, like you talked about, which I think probably good next series for us to talk about.
Yeah, I heard you mentioned ChatGPT, so I thought that this would be the perfect segue into the next question from Evan Go, or Goff. What makes Copilot a better system than other AI tools like ChatGPT? Now, I can personally say when I've used ChatGPT, I mean, you can write everything out and tell it what to do, but I really appreciate having those features where it's like, okay, do you want an email? Do you want bullet points? Do you want a LinkedIn post? Do you want a paragraph? Do you want this? Or do you want it to be short or long? Or what's the mood? Things like that. Like,
It's
obviously you can tell ChatGPT to do that, but it's not the way that it can just
for
pop
the
up on the
record.
side of your browser.
The
Is
back
nice.
end of Copilot is ChatGPT.
So
So
they do work together.
well, yeah, absolutely. It's the
Okay.
ChatGPT. I don't want to misuse terms, which is why I have Bill here speaking far more than me here. But they're using the ChatGPT on the back end for it. What Copilot does, no other system can do because it is able to be fully enmeshed in your Microsoft system.
Oh, so that's really the
Yeah,
main
oh,
thing that sets it
absolutely.
apart.
But Brooke, what's awesome about hearing your feedback is it's not just the fact that, for my nerdy self, it's, oh, yeah, it can get me all my SharePoint data. For you, it's like, oh, it's nice and it's presentable and there's a user interface that makes
Very
it
accessible, very,
exactly.
very
So
much so.
I would say it's not a better system per se, or an AI tool that's better, but more so it's the right one if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem for sure.
Yeah, totally. So Evan also asked if this integrates well with Airtable or Canva. Now, we did use Canva to actually make the presentation you saw today. Now, does it go directly with Canva? I'm not sure that I would be able to say yes, but since it is in our overall browser, while we're in Canva and that tab, we can always pull up the Copilot browser. It can do image generation, it can compose things, it can answer questions. So you always have it at your fingertips, whether you're using another digital tool. It can kind of be something that you can still go back to. And I guess that would be an integration, but just not as much like within Canva yet. But
Yeah,
would you agree?
I definitely can't speak on Canva. That would probably be the marketing team. Again, it depends on what you're trying to achieve out of it. There's the one thing I would note here is if your application that you're looking for integrates with Teams, then the chances are you could probably get some benefit. It really depends, and it's also early on right now. There's already a bunch of Copilot enabled apps within the Microsoft Teams marketplace, I believe is the
universe.
Exactly.
I think the key to that is the API access, right? And so if it has the KPI access, I was just looking. I actually was just asking Copilot, and it says there's no direct integration with Copilot, but you could use Power Apps and the API. So really, we have to take one, each one at a time and see if we can integrate. And again, the previous question about what makes it better, or it's I don't look at it as better, like what makes it functional, right? So you can get, it goes back to the data silo thing. If everything's data siloed, then you have tools that do different things. One of the things about Microsoft is it brings it all into the platform of the tools you're already using.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The next question is from our CEO. So thanks so much for engaging with us. He said, I guess with a lot of integrations available now for Copilot, how do you see this benefiting service providers like us at Klik? And what does this help you measure? Bill, I think
this question wasn't how much the licensing was, but go ahead, Bill, I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So one of the ones I mentioned before is when we're able to connect multiple databases, or in our case, we're unsiloing our data, bringing it into a data lake, and then from the data lake into a relational database. We can also hook the Copilot into that. And then now we can ask questions across multiple platforms, right? So we have a ticket system. We have another system, for example, that says what's patched and what version, and so on and so on. And you can integrate the data into both of those and ask questions to get the answers, right? So that's a more advanced. Obviously, the Copilot on the websites or internally on Teams, right? So
I could give our fearless CEO another really good answer. It helps me with my quotes and my proposals that I help the sales team do. No, all jokes aside, outside of helping some of our more technically inclined, engineering talent that may not make the best email composers, in a very basic sense, it helps us when I want to look at certain help desk metrics that are outside of our different analytic systems. I'll throw some basics in there, especially client data that's sent over in terms of anonymized little dumps, that if I want to just look at raw issue types or sub issue types that are particularly interesting. So, but yes. Oh, Brian.
Yes. So Brian Scott asks, how does this work for in-person meetings where people are in a single conference room together? Now, I guess my follow-up question to that would be, are there people who are remote, who are like phoning into this interview? Or are we talking about like a fully in-person conversation? Because if it's fully in person, then it's more like when you're in the Teams
I've asked this
call.
question as well. I've
Yeah.
tried.
So like, I think you have to be like in a Teams call for it to trigger the transcription and stuff through Teams.
You have to have a call. I mean, theoretically speaking, you can also feed a transcript into Copilot as well. So, Brian, I've actually played around with this in the early parts of the system for the same exact reason, where I would have my captive audience here in my office. I would want a whiteboard. I'm like, let's see what Copilot's going to tell us about this.
Yeah.
It's difficult because recognizing the different speakers and everything, I think it's something that's going to improve, but it's a little bit tricky right now. I was even playing around having Microsoft Word open and just doing transcription in real time. But yeah, I tried prompting it ahead of time, doing a meeting where I said, hey, we're going to have multiple people sitting here and so forth. And it actually tried, I will tell you, like, so I created a call with no one on but me, where I turned on the recording, turned on the transcription, and I said, hey, there's going to be multiple, but it can't, detect. So I think it's going to improve. Yes, that's right, Eve. Thank you for the comment. You were part of that experience.
I
just
do.
wanted to let he wasn't alone.
Yes. I do also want to share something that I figured out the hard way. So if you are a Teams user, you know that like you can have a meeting with a calendar invite and stuff in your calendar. But when you are messaging a person, you also have the ability to call them.
Mhm.
And I found out that even if you record it, it doesn't do the transcription. It'll record it, but you can
Yes.
only do transcription if it's a formal meeting. Like, and so I had like called someone and I talked to them about it, and I talked to them about stuff, and then I had hit record and everything, and I assumed I was going to go back and it was going to give me a nice written down stream of notes, and I had the recording. Yeah, what was that?
I'll show you offline. I had a hour-long call, ironically, last week, the same way. And I know what you're talking about, but you can go into Microsoft Stream after the fact and have it transcribed for you. I'll show you a little trick.
Well,
but you're right.
isn't that a nice little trick?
Yeah.
That's cool. I think this is a great last question for us to end on from Andrew. What do you think about such suggestion that AI as co-pilot in the close future will replace most part of positions worldwide? So that definitely relates a lot to the skepticism that I was feeling at the beginning. And I do think that it's okay to accept Copilot and also still have reservations. Like, we want to use and accelerate the good and minimize the bad. I think that that is most people's philosophy on just implementing anything into their system, is that you want to use something like, of course, there might be drawbacks, but there are also benefits, and finding that good balance there. I mean, I absolutely know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, for instance, like when you go into like a McDonald's now, most of the time you don't even order with a person anymore. You literally just walk up to the bot and you put in your order and it sends it into the system. So technology is advancing at a very rapid rate, and it is definitely speeding up processes. But then again, it's like, at what cost? Is there going to become a point where we can do everything faster with technology? So why do we need humans? And then my personal idea is, I think then there will be a counter revolution, counter pushback of being like, hey, we actually don't want the robots anymore. I think we should also have humanity like at the same time. Like, I hope that society will find a way to balance both.
I don't think it'll be Copilot. I think it'll be.
It won't be necessarily Copilot. Like, I'm talking about AI.
We haven't even talked about Power Automate and the automation capabilities of the within the Microsoft and the Copilot. So for right now, Copilot is an enhancer.
Liz just said that AI still needs human interaction. It's not just something that we have that and then people are just
for sure
made useless.
I think to Andrew's question of whether it will in the future replace specifically most part of positions, I don't think so. I think first of all, as Liz pointed out, and as we all know just from the anecdotal jokes about whether it can figure out the company name correctly, but it really will evolve, I think, Andrew, into people and companies who know how to use AI and how to get the most benefit from it. So it's not a matter of, the robots are going to take over and it's going to be us versus the robots. I think it's going to be the people who know how to use the robots and the AI and the people who don't. To your point, Brooke, there is an element here of, the whole self-checkout component. At the same time, I think as a managed service provider, if I were to roll out, here's your new chatbot, instead of being able to pick up the phone and call for support, I would have a revolution from the clients there, because at that point, it's like what you're describing, Brooke, in contrast to us, is we would advertise of like, we use real humans to solve your.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
So
yes,
it's the same rage that people feel when they call in and there's the, please say the reason you are calling. And
yes. And you're like, human, let me talk to a human.
correct. But now imagine that our support text that you're calling, and this is, we're going to have to figure out a way to show this on a future webinar without giving away too many sort of back end
Company secrets.
Imagine what happens when you call in our support lines and there is a transcription that goes on, and that bot is able to then suggest to our engineers, like, hey, this person's calling from here, here, and there. Here's the documentation that we have for their systems. Here's what we know common issues are. And it can start to suggest remediations and resolutions to a human who then can take it sort of the next steps. I think that's where hopefully we'll be in the very, very near future.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could pretty much do that now. Like if you had a bot on a website that was, your first, obviously you want the human call, but if you had a bot that where they could come in and basically ask a question about their services or about their computer, it would give them some suggestions, but at any one point they can go to a live agent. But then when they do, it takes all the information that they asked and brings it into the ticket, which then allows the process to be faster, which makes it happier.
Correct. I think we're out of time though, folks.
All right, very good. Well, for anyone who would like to have a little more of a demonstration or a little more insight, or to have a conversation about, training or about implementation, because it is, it does take a little bit to get everything turned on and get everything working right. So that requires a little bit of, technical skills. So I highly recommend, if you'd like, give us a call and we'd love to talk to you.
All right. Thanks everyone for viewing, for staying with us this long. If you're still here, we appreciate you. And yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Bill.